Welcome, everyone. So come on in, grab a seat. We'll go ahead and get started here since I know we've got a crisp 45 minutes. So welcome to the first technical breakout of Discover Barcelona. So we're excited to share with you a bit of perspective on, of course, our firewall offering, right? Having closed the Juniper acquisition in July this year. Juniper specifically, where both Jose and I come from, have been in the firewall market space for a very, very long time, right? For those who have the history, NetScreen acquisition, 03 and even prior. So with that, my name is Mike Spanbauer. I am a field CTO for security here at HPE, and my partner is Jose Porto, please.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jose Porto. I'm Senior TME Director for the SASE Security BU at HPE. And this is my first HPE Discover, so super excited about the energy and to share what we can do on the hybrid mesh firewall market, okay?
Thanks, Jose. All right, so since this is the first session, I'll spend a moment on this slide. You'll see it again and again and again, so hopefully, you won't have to sit through it all the time. But, forward-looking statements, nothing can be implied, of course, expressed or implicit, et cetera. Right, so we will talk a bit about kind of our vision, projecting out where we see the market going, and so from that, right, just the disclaimers as appropriate. So the agenda is pretty straightforward, right? So what is hybrid mesh firewalls, right? And why do we believe that every organization is going to look forward to using them? Some of those use cases and what specifically it solves for, how to go about adoption of hybrid mesh firewalls, and then last, right, so where do we go from here, right? And so with that, I'll turn it over to Jose to give you some market context.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. Okay. So I think in order to understand the rise and the evolution towards the hybrid mesh firewall, it's important that we understand that journey that took us here. And this history, by the way, is very personal to HP, right? Firewalls have been around for quite some time. In fact, close to 30 years of our technology, and we have been involved from the very start, right? In 1987, it was when packet filter firewalls were developed. They were pioneered by a company called Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC. And for those of you that keep track of history, DEC eventually was acquired by Compaq and then acquired by HP. So we've been innovating in this market from the very, very start. Right? So initially, with the packet filter, it was a very binary type of technology, right? You either allow or deny the traffic based on the header, the IP, the port, and it worked well in the beginning, right? In the early stages of the internet. But as we moved into the 90s and we start seeing the explosion of the internet, this type of technology doesn't work well. And this is when we start seeing the emergence of the state inspectful firewalls, right? And it was around this area, like Mike mentioned before, that we see the founding of NetScreen, right? 1997, we go into this stateful inspection firewall business, and we do very well, right? So all this worked well in the beginning, but then as we go into the 2000s, we see a big change in the threat landscape, right? We see the emergence of nation states, advanced persistent threats, and most dangerously, those day zero exploits. And the traditional stateful inspection firewalls could not deal with this traffic. They were blind, right? They could see that the port was open, right? Port 80 was open, but they couldn't see that there was a malware inside the HTTP load. And this is where we have the emergence of the new wave of firewalls, which is the next generation firewall. These new next generation firewalls require to have awareness of the application, awareness of the user, and awareness of the threat, right? And these firewalls have been around for the last 20 years. They've done very well. They've done very well, particularly in scenarios where you have a very well-defined perimeter to protect. So what's happened in the last years is we've seen this evolution towards the multi-cloud environment. And this is where hybrid mesh firewall starts to become more relevant, right? So in addition to this evolution of network security, there is something else that we need to keep in mind, and that is the evolution of the data center. I think there's been a lot of information in the keynote from Antonio and from Rami regarding the evolution of the data center. But it's important that we understand this evolution because it's going to help us understand what are the security challenges that are associated with this multi-cloud environment. So if you think about it, data centers have been around for close to 20 years. Initially, we started with this on-prem data center where you had a very well-defined perimeter. All the applications were running inside this perimeter in a safe way, right? And this worked well back then. But then as you start needing to have more speed, right? Moving from months of procurement, deployment of the data center to a more agile and speedy deployment, we start moving from this DC on-prem data center to colo data centers. This is for operational efficiency. Instead of spending months, now you can basically rack your server in weeks. You don't have control of the data center. You focus on the applications that are running in the data center. That worked very well. But then we require even more speed, right? So instead of going from weeks to rack your server in the colo data center, now we are moving into the cloud, where you can now, instead of spending weeks on deploying the server, you can spin up virtual servers in minutes using just a credit card. So you can see we start moving more into speed, and this moved into the next stage, which is the stage of multi-cloud. Multi-cloud is basically the ability to have applications running in different cloud environments. We see the emergence of this phenomenon called the ephemeral applications, where you have applications that spin up, they run certain transactions, and then they disappear. And these applications can be run in different environments, right? In fact, one of the things that we're saying is the repatriation of data into the data center. So again, very complex. And the latest evolution in the data center is what we talked a little bit earlier with Antonio, which is this move towards the AI cluster, the AI factories, right, where we have massive data centers where you are training your AI LLM models. So as you can see, a very complex multi-cloud fragmented architecture. And with this, we have a set of challenges that we have to deal with, okay? The first one has to do with the challenge of threat visibility, right? If you have applications that are running in multiple cloud, they could be spin up, they could disappear very quickly. You have a massive issue in terms of a blind spot, right? What if you have, for instance, for example, a mobile application that is running in a cloud, and that mobile application is breached, right? Potentially, the bad actor could move laterally through the VPN connection to the rest of the critical infrastructure of the bank, and potentially they could have access to very sensitive information. So, as you can see, this threat visibility and threats could be a major issue. So that's number one. Number two is the challenge of policy consistency. When you have multi-cloud environments, each of the cloud is going to have a different language. AWS is going to talk about security groups. Azure is going to talk about network security groups. On-prem, you're going to have VLANs. So being able to have a consistent policy that you can implement across all the different form factors, all the different environments can become very, very challenging. And with this comes a very significant operational burden. You have security administrators, you have security architectures that are really spending their time as middleware, right? In the sense that they need to make sure that the policies that you have in different environments are consistent across the board. And as you can imagine, this can be very costly, okay? So you're talking about highly paid individuals that are spending their time doing low-value policy migrations, policy configuration. And there's a real issue in terms of opportunity cost. These folks could be spending their time doing strategic initiatives such as doing threat hunting, threat analysis, or make sure that they implement a zero-trust architecture. So these are the challenges that we see in this multi-cloud fragmented environment. And the question here is, and the reason why we're here is, okay, what if there was an architecture that helped us solve these issues. And this is where the hybrid mesh firewall comes into place. The hybrid mesh firewall, by the way, it's a term that was coined by Gartner in 2022. And it's really a blueprint, right? An architecture that helps us deal with these challenges of multi-cloud environment, okay? They, in their market guide for hybrid mesh firewall platform document, they listed a set of critical capabilities that are needed in this new hybrid cloud world, right? So we're going to talk about it. This is probably going to be the most important slide that you see because it'll give you the capabilities, the solutions that we have, and the differentiation, right? So starting with capabilities, the number one capability is you have to be able to deploy multi-cloud. You have to do multi-cloud deployment, right? What this means is that you have to have an enforcement layer that can be deployed everywhere the traffic goes. What that means is that you have to be able to, whether you have a data center firewall in the data center, high performance firewall, a virtual firewall running on public cloud, private cloud, a container firewall running on Kubernetes, you have to be able to offer significant enforcement across all of these environments. And with the acquisition of Juniper, now HPE has access to a very robust and very mature portfolio of firewalls that covers all of these form factors, okay? So, but what's really interesting, what's really differentiating for us is that all of these form factors are running on the same operating system, Junos, right? This is compared with other vendors that stitch up different form factors from different companies, different OS. All of our form factors, from the edge firewall running on the largest hyperscaler to a tiny container firewall running on a container environment, all of them have the same security agency and the same security policy structure, policy language. And that means that we can deploy consistent enforcement across all of the different environments. The next one here is cloud-based management, right? And in order to be able to deal with all this chaos associated with different form factors, different environments, you need to have a central cloud-based manager that is able to ingest telemetry from all the environments, and then it's able to turn around and enforce policies that are consistent across the board, okay? And the way we do it is with Security Director Cloud. Security Director Cloud was launched in 2021. It was back then the first truly unified cloud-based management. And the main differentiation that we have here is that you set up the policy once and you can deploy it everywhere consistent. Okay, this is very, very unique in the market. And then application visibility. This is obviously a core capability. You have applications that could be running in different form factors. So the idea here is you have to be able to have visibility of what is happening. You have to be able to control it, and you have to be able to protect from risky applications. And the way we do this is with a combination of Security Director with AppSecure. AppSecure is our suite of application functionality that has control of the visibility of the applications, control. You can monitor what is happening in the application, and you can protect from risky applications, right? And the next one is advanced threat protection. I mean, this is probably the most important one in the sense that the reason why you deploy security mechanisms, firewalls, is because you want to protect from the advanced persistent threat attacks, day zero attacks, day one attacks. And this is an area that has been very important for us in the past decade, I would say. And the way we solve for this is we have a portfolio of AI-native advanced threat protection capabilities. We have more than 14 key differentiated functionalities, and AI has been weaved into all these technologies for quite some time. In fact, everybody talks about AI now, but we've been doing AI for the past 15 years, right? We were doing AI machine learning to protect against malware, and now this AI technology is incorporated in our DNS protection technology, in our threat feeds, dynamic threat feeds that we deploy, And the latest functionality that is really, really exciting for us is what we call AI predictive threat prevention, which allows you to run the inference model right on the box. You can block at line rate, zero-day attacks without having to send the file to the cloud for behavior analysis. So this is very, very exciting for us, very differentiating. The key thing that we're very proud of is that over the past 7 years, we have been a leader in all the third-party security tests that we have participated in. In fact, on the last one that was published just a few weeks ago from NSS Lab, we were one of the leaders there. And there's not only our ability to block malware evasion exploits, but also to do it with zero or minimal false positive, right? All of this making sure that the performance is not impacted because we have the highest level of security. So that's a key area for us. CI/CD integration as well is very, very important in this fast-moving type of environment. And the idea here is that security shouldn't be a bottleneck on DevOps. And the way we solve for this is we have our container SRX, CSRX, container firewall, and the CSRX can be embedded directly into the CI/CD pipeline so that security is truly embedded into the DevOps process. So we're moving from DevOps to SecDevOps, and we do it by being able to deploy next-generation capabilities, container next-generation native capabilities directly into the DevOps process. Okay? And finally, microsegmentation. This is becoming more and more important every day. This is around making sure that we can protect the traffic, the east-west traffic between the servers, the application, the workloads. And this becomes particularly critical when you move into multi-cloud environments. How do you deploy microsegmentation in different environments? And the way we do it is we have a very, very well and prolific set of microsegmentation solutions that go from physical, whether we do it on the firewall or we do it on the switches with DPU technology, virtual, container microsegmentation as well. And one of the ones that I wanted to call out, which I think is a great differentiator for us, is the ability to do native integration between the SRX and EVPN VXLAN Type 5. So we go from now to extend for those data centers that are deploying DC fabric, and we can extend security to the DC fabric. We not only protect the north-south traffic, but also we can protect east-west traffic within the DC fabric. Okay, so as you can see, very well set of capabilities, technologies to deal with the hybrid mesh firewall requirements. So with this, Mike, I'm gonna pass it on to you. Back to you. Just there.
All right, so let's spend a few minutes now sort of walking through how you go about applying, or how others have applied, these concepts and these capabilities into practical deployments. So as Jose walked through, right, hybrid data center security is complicated. And for that, at the top, right, both visibility and application awareness starts with the operation, UX, right, security director in this case. Then you have all the different properties, right, public, on-prem, et cetera, cloud instances, as well as, of course, your user connectivity. And the 4 requirements that we hear time and time again is to be able to deliver and see, right, those secure connections, user to workload, workload to workload, cloud to cloud, et cetera. Being able to, consistently apply policies. And when you're talking about the concept of rules in many firewall instance, right? Some of our customers, have over 10,000 firewalls, right? You're talking 6 figures of potential rules, and the operational requirements to ensure that those remain, federated, consistent, and applied universally is non-trivial, right? This is something we pride ourselves on, and we have quite a few patents that provide and support for this to ensure that you can do, in particular, the concept of zero trust, which is the dynamic application of security policies on a continuous basis. Not a set and forget, walk away, and the policy's done, but constantly and dynamically updated over time. that's achieved in the system. And because of the same rule set and rules engine being employed in the containerized virtual physical form factors, it's quite simple to do. And so, in addition to that, and I don't think, Jose, you touched on this, was the ability to commit, and then if something were to go amiss, for whatever reason, link, latency, you can have a number of things happen in the process of deployment. If it doesn't hook correctly, then it'll decommit, roll back to the last known good profile, and let the administrator know. That's a feature that doesn't exist with a number of our competitors, and it's something that our customers have said time and time again has saved them from a very embarrassing and potentially significant outage. The unified visibility, knowing how applications and user traffic is behaving in the environment in order to see and pick out the anomalous activities, right? So whether that be lateral movement or what have you within respect to a threat actor, having that in a single user experience that network and security teams can access provides for a peace of mind and a capability set that ultimately can save the day. And last, and definitely not least, is as we move forward, right, security, like every other area of technology, has grown to adopting AI or artificial intelligence where appropriate. And it's been in place for many years in machine learning contexts and so forth, but now taking that out to APIs, that dynamic concept for the zero trust application in a multi-cloud environment is quite critical. Unless you have the good fortune of having dozens and dozens of operational staff members that just want to sit, manage this, being able to do this via API is something that you can control practically every function within our firewall suite by virtue of them all running the same engines and the same control set. So in order to adopt it, we'll just quickly touch on the three core pillars, and then I'll walk you through some of those more detailed pieces, right? So, the key criteria for the start is that simplified experience, both from the user and from the operator side of the console. Knowing that it's easier to deploy consistently at scale for a large organization is critical. Uncompromising performance. Rami touched on this in the keynote, but one of the things that we benefit from is that Junos, of course, underpins all of our security and is heralded by many as one of the best networking operating systems in the world, right? Proven at every scale. In fact, these connections right now out to the cloud are running on our kit, deployed in the provider's environment, and so we can inspect at a performance level that few can match, and ultimately it makes certain that you can deploy and know that it will continue to perform over time, not having to do a rip and replace in 2 or 3 years like some of the vendors that may look, at the security challenge a little differently, basically trying to replace every 2 or 3 years. Our products live a lot longer in most of our customer environments because of that incredible headroom. And then last, the AI native security concept is bringing a whole suite of services that I'll walk you through here in a moment to bear when it comes to seeing and blocking bad things, right? Understanding how threat actors work at the speed of threat actors is critical. So the experience, and I'll let you kind of glance through it, but there's a host of patents that support the intelligent creation and application and commit of security policies so that the right precedence or order is recognized, and recommendations are made to the operators before they commit to make sure that it doesn't overwrite, as well as that it doesn't conflict with another rule in the system. So it'll surface any potential conflicts and make recommendations as to what order it should go in. The policy across all formats is incredibly powerful. We've already talked about that. So the next one is the enhanced threat and anomaly detection. Being able to see and block bad things, as noted by the third-party results, is critical. And then last, of course, the telemetry piece, which I noted a moment ago, but it's not limited to just the firewalls. Being able to ingest network insights from switching, from the wireless, from the routing platforms, in addition to the SRX, allows us to create predictive analysis models and to see things before they go wrong. The uncompromised performance, we've got incredible silicon. Our firewalls perform at a scale that's quite robust, and we also have a scale-out architecture there at the bottom, which is a reasonably new feature, allowing for you to model or architect a front-end MX or router fabric and then having a connection of SRXs to whatever capacity your organization may require. And some are employing 6, 10, multiple 10 terabits of capacity by way of this. And so it's quite a compelling capability, and we've got a fellow on the floor that can demonstrate it for you if you want to take a look at it upstairs. And then last, the concept of AI native security. Again, accurate prediction, seeing within, and being able to block bad things at that speed that our customers demand, right? That uncompromising performance is achieved by way of a number of services running on the local machine, one of which is this encrypted traffic insights, which is a patented capability that we have, able to identify malicious activities without having to decrypt everything. And so if you can knock down a portion of the malicious traffic that is practically all encrypted these days without having to decrypt, then you save cycles, you save performance, and ultimately you can just drop that traffic right at the port, not impairing any of your network information, right? So the following is just a simple graphic that walks you through over 15 capabilities that we have within every SRX instance, whether that be virtualized or appliance-based, that allows us to take out the more volumetric threats that you'll find in the wild, right? Actors like to reuse code. It's just a simple fact, right? Economics involved. They'll reuse, and these are often referred to as commodity threats, like 80 to 90% of all the campaigns that you'll find in the wild are these commodity or reused threats, some of which are 5, 6, 7 years old. You can easily knock those down with file rep or IP reputation, URL filtering, and so forth. So all of that can be handled very early in the processing engines. Furthermore, into then, the second portion of the funnel, where you get into payload inspection, the more complex attacks, real-time emulation. And this is where you introduce the artificial intelligence components inside of the firewall to do, as Jose noted, do partial pattern match at line rate to identify, calling it zero-day may be a bit of a stretch, but the ability to see novel, never-before-seen threats, which is oftentimes code reuse or portions of code reuse. But we can see those, identify those, and block those quite readily. And of course, sandboxing there at the far right handles all those things that are truly novel and never seen before. So with that, I'm going to have Jose come up and walk you through a bit of the demo. So with that.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, good. So we're going to do a brief demo. This is live demo, so just always a little bit of risk. So just we'll see how it goes. But we wanted to focus this on the simplified experience. Okay, so we're going to touch upon some of the key factors why we think that the SD Cloud really makes it easy for the security administrator to manage the multi-cloud environment. So first, we're gonna do this is not real, by the way. This is gonna be a brief video, and then I'm gonna switch to the lab. But just wanted to show you how easy it is on the day zero, right? How do you provision? This is particularly for remote firewalls that we want to provision. So we have this ability, right, to use a QR code to do the zero-touch provision. All of the firewalls come with a QR code. You can use the mobile application to basically provision the firewall. And if you go into Security Director, you can see that automatically that device has been onboarded. Right? So very easy, particularly for distributor enterprises where you could have hundreds, thousands of remote sites. You can do it very, very easily. Okay, so that'll be the first part of the hybrid demo. Now we're going to switch into the actual environment here. And so this is a multi-cloud lab that we use for demos with customers. And you can see first that the devices that we have as part of the demo. And basically we have 5 devices. One of them, hopefully this is gonna, this is live stuff, okay. Let me try again. I have a backup, by the way, so it's a backup plan, okay. I'm gonna have to use the backup.
The Wi-Fi congestion is real, folks.
Okay, let me see if it goes. Okay,
there we go.
So
all right.
It's going. I have a video in case. Okay, so this is these are the number of devices, right? So we have on the right side, you can see we have 5 devices, 3 virtual SRXs. Think about, the virtual SRX could be running on Amazon, it could be running on a private cloud, and then we also have the SRX 4200. This is the 1RU firewall, fixed form factor firewall, but typically this will be deployed in the data center. We also have a couple of VSRXs that are running MNHA, multi-node HA, so this is for high availability. So as you can see, multi-cloud environment. From here, we can go into the main dashboard. Remember, Security Director Cloud is going to allow us to have a unified visibility of all the applications that are happening, and it's going to allow us to also manage unified security policies. So we have a couple of views that the administrator can use. We have what is called a general view, and we have a security view. The general view is going to be more for the day-to-day. This is where you're going to have access to your applications, top users, top threats. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a filter so that we can see what is happening in a specific SRX, right? So we're going to go here from 5 devices to 1 device, and here I can see the critical information. What are the threats blocked? What are the number of users? The visibility of the applications by volume, but also by risk. So the risk is going to have things, from critical, medium, low, all the way to none. So this is a very quickly way to understand what is happening in your environment from an application point of view. We can also go into the threat summary view, and this is going to allow you to see within this particular SRX what are the threats that are occurring and what are the services that are running, what are the workflows that are running. So, for instance, we could double-click here on SecIntel. SecIntel, by the way, is one of our advanced security features. It's using AI to curate dynamic threat feeds. It's going to look at things like known IPs, known bad IPs, known bad domains, or URLs. And so we're going to double click a little bit on this. As you can see, some of the services that are activated, we have DNS security. This is a critical scenario, so we'll see the number of deny events, number of users. We can also here go into SecIntel. It's another critical application here, and also see what are the deny events. And from here we could potentially say, okay, I'm gonna double click on SecIntel, and we can go to the users, which is going to give us visibility to all of the users that are being impacted here. We can see the infected host, and potentially from here we can look at all the total rejects, which will give a comprehensive list. And here you can actually drill down to understand what is happening. So I can go into the log, and I can see that we have a policy that is SecIntel, right, the curated threat feeds. The action is to block, and it's going to give you the source IP and the destination IP. So it's a very quick way to understand what is happening and do a little bit of threat analysis. So this is one area that we can do with the general view. We can now go back to the main dashboard, and we can switch into the security view. Again, this is more for the security administrator, and the view is going to be a little bit different. We can see here from source IP to destination IP is going to give you visibility of all the applications, the public applications, private applications, user zones, and all the advanced threat protection capabilities that are running. So from here, we could double click, for instance, on what are the users that are connected into Amazon. And we're going to have a comprehensive list of the users. I can go into the list of the users here. And we can also look at the sessions. Okay, let's see what are the sessions that are running on Amazon. And again, very quick way to do a little bit of the threat analysis here. Okay. So in addition to this, we also have the capability to look at days new malware, right? So advanced threat, APT type of traffic, zero-day type of attacks. So if we go into file scanning, we can see all of the HTTP files that have been blocked, right? And first thing we can see is the threshold that I have is more than 10 threat level. The detection agent here is AIPTP. This is the ability that we have to run the inference model on the box to block the malware at line rate. And here, potentially, we could also, we're looking at AIPTP. Let's see if there's any other detection engine. I could go into a different engine and also run a query to understand what are the threats. And here, we can actually now double-click and do a little bit of the threat hunting, right? So we can see here that there was a file name, there was a Trojan file that was blocked. The threat level was 9. And we can do a little bit of analysis, looking at static analysis. No issue with the static analysis. But if we look at the behavioral analysis, we can see some of the behaviors that trigger this high level, right? It could be persistent, right? Sample self deleted, evasion, so some multiple type of behaviors that trigger this threat alert. And another neat thing is we can also match the type of detection, the type of attack with the MITRE attack framework. We can see this is a T1560, so you can map it into the 14 different MITRE attack phases. So very, very neat way to quickly understand what is happening there. I wanted to also talk a little bit about operational simplicity from a policy perspective. We've been talking about SD Cloud being able to deploy a policy across all the different environments. We're going to show how easy it is to do it here. And I'm going to go to SRX policy here. I can see all of the devices that are running here. All of them have currently a policy running. Creating a new policy is just a couple of clicks away. I can go to plus here, and I can create an HMF, hybrid mesh firewall policy. And you can see very quickly, I can select all of the different firewalls that are in the lab, or I can just select a couple of them. These are the ones that are going to have this particular policy. I'm not going to do the actual policy here, but the point here is how easy it is to do these policies across all the form factors, across all the environments. Okay? And then finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we make it easy for the security administrator to manage their policies. If we go to one of the firewalls here, we can look at all of the security policies that are included. And I could do a rule analysis that is going to look at how to optimize the security policies in this firewall. And I can see here that from all the policies, we identified a couple of rules that are not being utilized. So from here, I could potentially select to delete the policies directly, or I could, if I want to further analyze the policy, I could share it with somebody else in the team for further inspection. So again, a very easy way for us to optimize the policies and to make it easier for the security administrator to enforce policies across the board. Okay, so good. Let me now switch gears. I'm going to now move back into the deck, and I'm going to put my glasses on. And so what I wanted to do here is I wanted to share a customer success. And this is kind of an interesting situation. This is an example of something like a really, really sobering, really bad situation that, thanks to the right architecture, the right technology, and most important, the right partnership, we can switch this bad situation, bad scenario, into a very positive outcome. So I'm going to talk about an incident that happened. It was a very publicized incident that happened earlier this year. It was April 2025. Just so that you picture, this is happening Easter weekend, right? And one of the major British retailers, it was one of a few, because there were at least 3 or 4 British retailers that were attacked. They were attacked by this ransomware group called ScatterSpider. And ScatterSpider basically did this really sophisticated, vicious attack, supply chain attack on this retailer. And what we saw is that they used a supply chain attack. They used social engineering to basically trick, thank you, Mike, to trick the third-party contractors into resetting their MFA. So they resetted their MFA, but unknowingly, they granted access to critical systems to this scatter spider group, right? What happened next is that they used a ransom as a service called Dragon Force, and they proceeded to encrypt all the servers, the applications, critical system, right? This showed, when they went back, they showed that they had some security vulnerabilities in terms of network segmentation and third-party access. So this was, again, very publicized. The impact was really, really painful, okay? We're talking operational disruption of 6 weeks. I mean, they couldn't do online transactions. They couldn't make payments for 6 weeks. Financial impact, this is an estimate, 300 million pounds on impact because of this type of attack. And obviously, customer trust was the main issue that we had here. So at this point in time, in this low moment, the customer turned to us. We were not the security vendor. We had built a very good relationship, trusting relationship on the networking side, but they trusted in us. They invited to be part of the solution, and we went from just partnership to a trusted advisor. We were basically all hands on deck in the war room with them to figure out how to fix this, right? And we took after detailed analysis, we took a very surgical approach. First, we replaced the main firewall in the data center so that all of the traffic would traverse through this data center firewall, traffic from AWS, from internet, from all the retailers through their SD-WAN connectivities. And then we proceeded to go system by system, basically updating the policies, making sure that all of the systems were brought back on board very, very carefully, okay? And this, again, resulted in fixing the breach. The component was the next generation firewall. We were able to provide advanced threat protection, and we helped them develop a zero trust architecture. The result was back trust from the customer. This was, I mean, if you're interested, you can research which one it is very easily, right? But there was a parliamentary reading from the CEO where they described this solution as the ring of steel. And it allowed them to go back on business and build the confidence. So it's a very, again, great example of a combination of great technology, architecture, and great partnership. Okay? So with that, I'm going to pass it on to you, Mike.
Okay. Thanks, Jose. So we've got a couple minutes left. I'm going to clip through this really quick. These are going to be in the slides that you can grab after the show. So again, we have a comprehensive portfolio that addresses the manageability components that we talked about. Of course, the advanced services across all the types of threats that an organization would face and does face on a daily basis, and all the enforcement points, which is not limited to just the firewalls, as we mentioned before, but it includes the ingestion telemetry from the service components, switches, routers, and so forth, which allows us to address every type of environment that is deployed today, from hardened, even air-gapped environments on through to full public cloud adoption and everything between. So real quick, just to close on these, right? So the experience piece, it's that operational excellence, ensuring that we're there for you to ensure that it all scales, your organization can be secured confidently, and you can manage it effectively without having to hire 10 additional staff. Being able to know that its performance is unmatched, right? The firewalls, all of your security capabilities, adding value to the network infrastructure itself, not just as a point of no, but also as a flow-through point of enforcement. And then, of course, the efficacy, right? We are very proud of our capabilities, for the last 6+ years of demonstrable effectiveness, knowing what is bad, what is not bad, and making certain that we're very careful to not block benign traffic, and that ensures that the applications are up, the experiences are excellent, and at the end of the day, you've got what you need. So there's a few other sessions that I'd suggest you take a look at. The one at the top there is actually delivered by our Threat Labs leader, Munir Hahad. He'll walk you through the modern landscape that he's seeing from his team for threat research and, of course, so forth. It's going to be quite insightful. And he's also, of course, instrumental in the development of the capabilities that we walked you through here at a high level today. So it's going to be a good session, as well as the other three are also going to be quite useful if you have time to do so. In addition, right, the communities, if you're not a participant or currently active member, I'd encourage you to join and to participate. Airheads and Elevate both have security pieces, and it keeps you up to date on the things that are going on. So our emails, and then, of course, one thing that they're asking us to make sure we make a plea to you all is, provide your feedback. Let us know what you think. Certainly want to hear it. And with that, I think we're at time. So I'll stick around. Lunch follows, so you're not rushing to your next session from here, but I also don't want to stand in between you and food. So thank you all for your time. Jose, appreciate it, sir. And with that, we'll hang around for some questions, but I don't want to keep you. So thank you.